Are we live? Are we dialed in?
We back.
We don't have anybody watching.
We back. They will.
Oh.
They will. They're coming on right now. So right now, Isabel is doing a lot of interviews. Obviously, with the movie coming out today, she's in high demand. So she'll be hopping on very, very soon. But in the meantime, you have the Shelby show that's happening.
Welcome to the Shelby Show. Olympia. So what were we talking about before? We were talking about calamansi, and I ran to the kitchen. We don't have any. I have a tree in our backyard. The tree's not doing so hot, even though I fertilize it with worm poop. Fun fact about Shelby, I have a worm farm. So if anybody out there has any advice on how to get my worm farm up and poppin', let me know.
Are they still alive?
As of yesterday, yes. They are chewing on some watermelon and some spinach.
I love how you've taken over the show.
Well, you said welcome to the Shelby Show. You don't get. Let's just be honest. Let's push Harry out.
The shubs.
I'm kidding. Come back in.
The shubby.
Come back in. Anyways, I don't have calamansi to show you guys, which I'm kind of sad about because it's an amazing fruit and very tasty. But I'm eating some lumpia right now. Harry, did you dig into your lumpia?
I don't know, but look at this perspective. Look when you're sitting. Looks so good.
Hurry! I can squash him with my armpit.
All right, let's see if she's here.
Dialing it in. Do we need background music? Am I allowed to do that? On Instagram, I don't know all the rules.
No, you can put background music. It's Instagram Live. It's
What is it? Hi everyone. How's everybody doing?
There's a new calamansi seltzer water. Have you
Calamansi seltzer water? That sounds
Oh.
delicious. See, if we could have had seltzer water right now. I mean, calamansi water made our own, but
Just
we
squeeze
don't have
it.
any.
Just squeeze it in.
I know, but we don't have any. That's the problem. But in my mind, it's a calamansi type of day. Why don't we just make every day calamansi day?
It's good for you, isn't it?
It's super good for you. Vitamin C,
Vitamin P,
vitamin P
G.
for Filipino.
Hey!
Where's everybody tuning in from? Tuning in? I'm so old school.
Some people, I appreciate y'all. I know live U.S. time zones are a little difficult for international fans.
For chatting.
Some of y'all stay up.
Harry, do the WAP. What's the WAP? Like Lauryn Hill's WAP?
No. It's completely different.
Who are the Lauryn
I don't even know what it is.
fans out there? We should play some Lauryn Hill, but I don't know. We don't own.
You mean doo-wop? That's a song. It's not the WAP. The WAP is the W-A-P.
I'm very unaware of
WAP.
new dance moves.
It should be WAP.
The WAP?
The WAP.
The WAP.
Depends on what kind of accent you have.
There's like Fortnite dance moves, right? That my niece and nephew show me all the time, but they kind of look like just old school dance moves in 2020. Is that wrong?
Habla un poco en español, por favor.
Oh, Espanol. Nothing's coming to me right now. Did somebody ask you to speak Spanish?
Yeah, someone did.
Oh, people from Israel are tuning in. Hi! Hoping everybody out there is nice and safe.
It's doing that freaking
Do you
thing
speak
again.
French? No. I know some French terms. That was cool. How did you do that? I'm learning so many new things. Color change.
Baka chicka pow pow.
Color change. Should we do a cooking video soon, Harry?
We should.
Harry's very competitive when it comes to cooking, just so you guys know.
I'm a terrible cook.
We kind of argue a little bit on how things should be made or knife skills, for example. So usually when we're in the kitchen, I cook or he cooks. We can't really cook at the same time because
we've cooked. We have to delegate different tasks.
Yes, I've learned not to add in any of my opinions on how things should be seasoned. And he knows when I'm cooking.
Hey, seasoning is a very personal thing.
It is a very personal thing. But it's like, that's why we have to give over when, if it's your dish, it's your dish. And if it's my dish, let's have a cooking competition. We're going to have a cooking competition where, what should be our first thing that we cook? I really like cooking pasta and noodles because it's easy. Harry cooks noodles in a specific way. I'm the type of person, after I cook my noodles, water noodles from the pot directly into the sauce. Not noodles, sink, wash, sauce on top of the noodles.
Hey.
Do we have? Are we in?
Mm-hmm.
Not yet? You have a lot of people saying, Harry, I love you.
I love you all too.
Chopped edition. Yes. People have been watching Malik break up again, I know. It's a tearjerker. Sometimes during this time, we just need some tearjerker things. Anyways, ask questions. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So back to sisig. How many of you out there have eaten sisig? Give me a heart if you've eaten sisig. It's delicious. Where did we get this food from?
I'm not sure. Someone just dropped it off in front of our house.
A stranger just dropped it off at our house.
Oh, I think I found her. Here we go. It's connecting.
Hi.
There we go.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Harry.
This is Shelby. This is my wife, Shelby.
Hi, Shelby. Nice to meet you. I'm Isabel.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Oh, no, we gotta move this up a
Wow, I'm a little starstruck.
We are too.
I
Just
know,
watched
it's on
your
me.
film.
Yes, congratulations. It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Oh my goodness. First of all, okay, let me introduce you. This is Isabel
Okay.
Sandoval. She directed this beautiful film that's on Netflix called Lingua Franca, and it's your third film. But like, first of all, you wrote it, you directed it, you produced it, you edited it, and you star in it. I mean,
Yes.
am I forgetting something? Or edited.
You said that.
Oh, I did
yeah,
say it.
everything.
I feel like you're like an independent filmmaker's dream.
That's right.
Like literally doing everything. So first of all, how do you feel? It's out today. I know it's been you've had it out for like 2 years ago, right? You shot it?
Yeah, we shot it in September, almost 2 years ago, no, September 2018. And in fact, almost exactly a year ago, we had our premiere at the Venice Film Festival.
Wow.
Yeah, for the film. And it's so surreal that it's finally coming out now. I'm overwhelmed, to be honest. And it also has to do with me being an introvert.
Yeah,
And so, you know, now that the film is out, I'm really putting myself out there. It's overwhelming in a great way that something that I worked on with just like 30, 40 people and that felt really personal is now getting seen as widely as possible. It's surreal but an amazing feeling, and I'm so happy that Ava DuVernay and her distribution company Array acquired the film. You know, Ava has been a trailblazer and she kind of created her own opportunities in the film industry and in Hollywood and got to where she is now. And it's truly inspiring for a Filipino filmmaker like myself who's trying to do the same thing with my own work and my career. So yeah, and I also wanted to thank you guys as well as Gold House and Cape and Array for, of course, setting up this dinner in the movie.
Yeah.
Lingua Franca.
Yes. Or do you have some food in front of you?
Yes, I have lumpia.
Yes,
Yeah,
we do too.
Shelby was giving a little bit of I guess a history and education of lumpia.
Not so much a history, just my commentary on how these little wrapped pieces of meat are definitely what Philippine cuisine is known
Right.
for, and also
Yeah.
what sisig is. And I brought up, Red Horse. Sometimes you can drink it with Red
Yeah.
Horse, San Miguel.
And when they first told me that, the idea for this thing, I was like, maybe I should just cook it myself. And it's like, no, just we'll order something for you and you can just relax and eat.
Yeah, you have enough on
But
your plate, Isabel.
Yeah. Where are you from? Where are you from in the Philippines?
I was born and raised in Cebu, which is where I think my character says that in the film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I I was there until I finished college. So after college, I moved to Manila for a year where I worked in marketing and a brand management position. And after that, I decided to come to the US. So I came to New York to pursue my master's degree, and I have stayed since. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. And Shelby's family is from
Pangasinan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How often do you go back? Have you guys been back together to the Philippines?
I took Harry. I think it was 2011. Wow, almost 10 years. And he witnessed Christmas. With my family. Yeah. There was a incident that occurred where he disappeared, and then all of a sudden my cousin comes back on a moped, and Harry has a whole bunch of fireworks, and I'm like, what happened? Where did
I'm
you
trying to
go?
provide for the kids a little entertainment. They thought I just ran off somewhere, but it was just really really beautiful, and just such a cool experience to see kind of her family and that was my first time in the Philippines. But your movie, like, let's talk. For people who are watching right now, and just know that there's a lot of people all over the world that are watching right now. They're tuning in. Some are staying up very very late and just to watch. So give us
Brazil,
from everywhere, and just give us a little bit of what the movie is about.
Sure.
Just so the fans they know.
Yeah, it's Lingua Franca is a drama about an undocumented Filipina trans woman who works as a caregiver to an elderly Russian Jewish lady in Brooklyn, New York. And as Olivia, the trans woman, is trying to pursue a path and figure out a path to citizenship, she becomes romantically involved with the adult grandson of the lady that she's looking after. And this guy named Alex happens to be a slaughterhouse worker who doesn't initially know that Olivia is transgender. So that is the basic premise of the film.
Mm-hmm. What I want to commend you, it's as a cis straight male, I've never watched a film that was a director was a trans woman that what I felt like it was just from your POV. I feel like there's a lot of films about trans male and trans female, like it's always through like their POV, right? And I really appreciated a lot of even certain scenes where I could tell that it was from your POV, and it wasn't fetishized or done in a way where it was from an outside perspective, and I really appreciate that because the movie itself it settles and allows me kind of to live with Olivia for an hour and a half, and I really appreciate that because I think what this movie allows is empathy. It's just an empathy machine. I think what a film particularly like yours, it allows that to happen. It allows for an open audience to be able to just kind of hang out and see what Olivia, the character that you created, go through. I get one of the questions I had is like, what made you want to star in it as well? I mean, you're putting a lot of hats on. Like, I could barely sometimes even act in a movie, let alone like now you have like 10 different hats.
I've said that while Lingua Franca is not an autobiographical story. It's a very personal work, and that it's really, I wanted to showcase my sensibility as a director and a storyteller, and also, like you said, the POV for my experience of being a trans woman, Filipina trans immigrant in New York City. And, you know, my films have been independent and really auteur driven, in that, you know, they really are my personal vision. And for a story like this, with this kind of character set in present day America, it felt really important for me to tell the story both in front of and behind the camera, so that I can really kind of establish true ownership
Mm-hmm.
for the story. And, you know, I feel like as artists who are considered a minority here in the US, whether you're Filipino, you know, Asian American, or an immigrant filmmaker or a woman filmmaker, I feel like, you know, there have been films with the same premise as Lingua Franca that have an arguably social issue, you know, premise. So, and in fact, for instance, there are films with transgender protagonists that have been made by, you know, cisgender male directors. And almost always, especially the high profile ones, like the Danish Girl with Eddie Redmayne a few years ago, it almost always focuses on the gender transition process.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a certain fascination, obsession with that. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a valid aspect of, you know, being transgender, but that's just one.
Aspect, yeah. One
Right.
aspect.
And that's why I felt like, as a transgender filmmaker, finally getting the chance to make a film that has a trans protagonist, Lingua Franca as a project feels like a corrective to those earlier efforts that tried to represent that experience. And so Lingua Franca ends where a lot of those trans narratives begin. When the film opens, her transition is well behind her.
Yeah.
Right.
We're just immersed in her world,
Right.
as she's going through her daily rituals and in her life looking after this woman. The word trans does not come up every 5 minutes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it just comes up at the point of the story where other characters force the issue.
Right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
And the language being used is derogatory when that word
Exactly.
comes about. I don't want to, give out too many spoilers, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Olivia is humanized, and never once am I thinking, while watching it, it's not about Olivia being trans. It's about her being human and having fear, being an immigrant. Also being a woman. A lot of the moments that I really liked were the very, and I commend you. Your point of view is so subtle, and it's so powerful in its subtleness, and so I loved it. All the quiet moments were like my favorite ones when walking off of the subway. Just your body language, because it is, as a woman of color, and not only that, but you being trans, walking down the stairs, down a street, there is fear. We are in fear. At nighttime, walking on our own, and then I love those really quiet moments and the moments that you give over. With a relationship with Alex, which, by the way, was acted beautifully. You guys had wonderful chemistry on screen, and just to see that relationship slowly, and it wasn't so in your face, and it wasn't fetishized, and that's what I really appreciated. So thank you for
high five.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it was so powerful for me as a Filipina to see another Filipina woman on screen, because we are so underrepresented. And here I am, I'm like, representation matters. And, and this is going to mean so much that it's on Netflix today. Everybody out there watch it. It's amazing how many Filipinos women do you see? And then on top of that, how many trans Filipino women do you see on screen? You're the first. Hey! And for that, we are celebrating you and your film. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's so surreal, this feeling that the film is being embraced and celebrated because, also for a film with that touches on themes that it does, like immigration
Right.
and, being transgender, which have become, because, in the current Trump administration, so contentious and urgent and controversial, you know, you'd expect a film that would be more, I guess, performatively angry or indignant,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or loud and in some way kind of preachy and didactic, but I've kind of went the opposite direction and made it really subdued and I think subtle and patient so that we
Yes.
really, and I'd like to think of myself as a humanistic and humane and compassionate filmmaker, and in that I don't have characters that are outright villains. Because, for example, what Alex does in the film, not to spoil anything, he would be immediately like villainized and written off. But I think, being a minority in a country like the US, and I experienced that both as a person and as a storyteller, I recognize that people are very much the products of it, influenced by their environment.
Yes.
And someone like Alex, for instance, who was raised in a Russian Jewish community that might be a little somewhat conservative and misogynistic and transphobic. And because of that, when he realizes that Olivia is transgender, he isn't he doesn't necessarily have the emotional sophistication and the resources to deal with that discovery in a mature and a responsible way. Men are not socialized to grapple with their emotions
Mm-hmm.
and to understand that. And he retaliates against Olivia for this perceived betrayal in a way that he knows how, because he
Mhm.
doesn't know any better. And after he does that thing that hurts her, he realizes his mistake and he kind of spends the entire film truly grappling with the consequences and repercussions of what he's done and trying to make things right.
I thought it was. I wanted to ask. This is a question as far as like imagery goes. I thought it was a really interesting choice that Alex works at a slaughterhouse essentially, and some of the opening images. Not to give out too much, but the fact that these cows are kind of hanging from these 7-pound hooks and that they're completely empty inside. I wanted to ask. I was like, was that a conscious choice to have kind of cows, frozen cow, what do you call
Carcasses.
them? Carcasses. Yeah, carcasses hanging, and it's like, we don't know if these, I don't know if only slaughtered cows are males or females, but I thought that was very powerful imagery. You don't have to answer it, but I was just wanted to make a comment, and it kind of started my brain, kind of going in all different ways because it's, with Olivia being trans and then Alex being this hyper masculine in this, in the world that he grew up in.
Just troubled.
Troubled.
Having not the greatest childhood, right? And
Yeah.
I think what is wonderful is that there's so many layers to your film, and watching it just from the very top, that image of the bridge or the nighttime streets, is the silent loneliness of that.
Yeah.
You could just tell that you're like a student of film, that
With a train.
you studied film, whether you went to film school or not, it's just you have a love for cinema, and I think that's what's really special, because I think telling these stories, I think, are incredibly important to kind of have the two sides of reaching an audience that, with the subjects that and content that you guys you're providing, but also, putting those poetic moments that can kind of like get those get the cinephiles, to really like salivate.
Exactly. And, I feel like Lingua Franca doesn't necessarily just refer to the role of the characters, but also To me, as a filmmaker, it's my third film, but it's also my first after my gender transition and my first to be set in and produced in the US. So I was really trying to truly find my own voice as a filmmaker through the language of cinema and express my ideas and vision in a way that truly feels unique and distinct. Like those images, for instance, of the carcass, the montage, the opening montage of the different scenes set around Brighton Beach, where I juxtapose these images of a place that feels very American against a voiceover in my own native dialect, which is Cebuano. Um, I wanted to impose my own take on the New York City film and in a different kind of New York that's very different from, say, the hip, edgy Williamsburg in Lena Dunham's Girls,
Right.
or the Bed-Stuy of Spike Lee, or even the Midtown Manhattan movies of the Safdie brothers with Uncut Gems. I want people to see this film and say that this is a different kind of New York movie and this is an Isabel Sandoval film, so to speak. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I have one question of the title. I don't know, and you don't have to answer this if it's given too much away, because I think also what the beauty is like having discovery from the audience. But just I know Cebuyan. How do you?
Cebuano.
Cebuyan, because I know Tagalog is but you speak Cebuyan, right, as well?
Yeah, I speak
And
Cebuano.
that is the bridge, right, of the language. Because I read somewhere the bridge between kind of between the native languages, right? Is that Lingua Franca, the title of the movie, or that?
Lingua Franca, the dictionary definition is bridge language. So, for example, in a country like the US, between immigrants, like between a Russian or a Filipino, they can communicate with each other in English, and English would be the lingua franca. But I didn't really realize that lingua franca as a term is not as widely known as I initially thought it would be. Like, for example, for example, in France, when it was released theatrically there, they changed the title to Brooklyn Secret.
Hey!
Oh, okay.
But lingua franca.
Yeah.
I just love the franca.
That makes sense because yes, when I was wondering why there was a change of title when you were doing all that circuit in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Really, I love that scene, by the way. Like what you just had with Harry, that scene with Alex in the film where he's like tag log, tag log, like, and then you were explaining, to him what it is and how to say, like, pretty man. That was a really sweet scene.
And what's great about that scene is that actually that was not scripted. We had already filmed the actual scripted scene, but we had to keep driving around. So we just ended up having that impromptu exchange. And
I love that.
I thought it turned out quite well, actually. So
yeah, it was perfect. I could tell. I was wondering if it was improv because it's just the timing of it, and it was supernatural. Yeah, it was great.
So that scene was improv, and it worked.
Yeah.
And I forgot to ask you. I'm not an interviewer. I'm terrible.
You're doing great, babe.
I'm terrible.
You're doing
but where are you? Are you in New York? Are you in LA? Where are you at right now?
Right now I'm in North Carolina. I'm in the suburbs, 30 minutes outside of Raleigh. I came here. So I was in New York for the first few months of the pandemic, and then I came here, I think, June 2nd. And I planned to already come here back in early May. I'm staying with a cousin. And yeah, I just felt really, I don't know, just tense and not in a good place mentally when I was in New York. And when I was here, I felt a lot more relaxed. I finished my next script. And I've started shopping it around. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, like now, I think what has been the coolest moment about all this? I know working with Ava and just having people see the film, but what are the, like, even like the small things. What has been the best part of this process?
Um, I think the people like me and my work being recognized as the work of an auteur. I think I've always really pushed for and embraced my uniqueness as a storyteller, in that I didn't really follow a traditional or conventional path as a director in the industry, and I fought to stick true to the stories I wanted to tell and how I wanted to tell it. And you know, this victory, like kind of this win in terms of more people just appreciating my work, emboldens me and inspires me to continue taking more risks and being more ambitious with my, next projects. And I feel like by, listening to my gut and my instinct, has taken me this far, I'm just going to continue doing that. I want to do work that I feel passionate about, because that's where I feel the most fulfilled and successful. So
That's really inspiring to hear. I think a lot of aspiring artists and directors and writers and, anybody in the creative field, it's always nice to see somebody, who looks like them, like saying, follow your instinct. Because I think at the end of the day, did we doubt ourselves quite a bit? Did you have a lot of doubts, like early on in your filmmaking career? Did you think you're like, oh, did you go against your gut ever?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like, and this is also why I didn't go to film school, we don't get to choose our passions, but our passions choose us. Mm-hmm. But it's a different matter whether that thing that we're passionate about is something that we actually have some talent.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't usually tell, but, even when I was a kid and I was, in love with movies and cinema, I had a clear idea of, I felt very confident about telling stories in the cinematic medium. Like when I would conceive of stories, I conceive of them as images that I stringing together into scenes that form a movie. And so that was just my sensibility and my creative process. And so that's what I did. And I think the reason why I was so fearless in a way and daring and like making the movies that I made, it's because I just trusted that somehow the universe will conspire to make my dream come true for me. And it's so surreal. I mean, it's so bizarre saying this, but like when we were making Lingua Franca, I was telling my producers, just let me do it my way. And we're going to premiere in Cannes or Venice or Berlin without, just kind of blabbing about that. But I think how I succeeded as an art house / independent filmmaker is to truly distinguish myself with a unique aesthetic and a unique voice, especially when you're starting out as a filmmaker or as an artist. The industry is not necessarily looking for the most technically polished work, or the film with the highest production budget, but they're interested in your style and what you have to say that's different from what anybody else is doing. And so I think, especially for those who go to film school, and I'm not, not against that route, we're sometimes told to make a certain kind of movie that adheres to a certain formula.
Yep.
To get into Sundance or South by Southwest. Oh, that's not a Sundance movie. That's not a South by Southwest movie. And I didn't do that. I just did it my way. And somehow, the industry and the audience is starting to appreciate what I do, because it is something different and something unique. Sometimes, there are artists that have to wait a whole lifetime to have even a smidgen of acceptance or acknowledgement from the public. That's what happened to Van Gogh,
Right.
It wasn't after he died. So I consider myself also very lucky in that I kind of had this breakthrough at this time in my life, and I didn't have to wait, 20, 30 more years.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
That's so beautiful. It's so funny because I remember when I was visiting the Philippines, the karaoke song that was sung the most was I Did It My Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's My
Yeah.
Way. My Way by Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, yeah. I did it my
Yeah. So if I ever do karaoke, I might, do that song.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, you are definitely a filmmaker to watch already, and people even in the comments are saying they're going to watch it tonight. So I think it's really, really wonderful film, and I can't wait to see what you do next and in coming future. And what I would say, just enjoy this time too. Right now, it's so cool. The whole world. It's being released to the whole world. The whole world is seeing it. So I think it's so beautiful. So thank you for coming on with us and talking. And and I know you're super busy right now. You got so many interviews that you have to jump onto, but really, really appreciate having convo with you.
Thank you, and thank you for watching it. I hope we actually get to work together soon too.
Hey, brother, let's do it. We're saying it here.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. You are supremely talented. So everyone watch Lingua Franca on Netflix right now. Isabel Sandoval. She is
Triple threat.
What is it? No, not how do you
Quadruple.
No, even more. What is it? Wait, okay. Wait. Does anyone know what it is in the comments? What would it be? Is
how many?
Writer, producer, director, actor, editor. Come on. 5? What's the sentence?
That's
5.
Oh,
I'm sure you did a couple of things too. Did you do your own makeup and stuff too? Come on, yeah.
Costume design.
Anyways, really amazing, and let's talk more. I love having conversation, and everyone go watch the film.
Yeah, Lingua Franca.
Thank you.
Bye, Isabel.
Bye, Isabel.
Bye, dinner. Bye. Talk soon.